Welcome back to the Will Cain Show. I'm really excited for my next guest. You know him from Field of Dreams, The Untouchables, and the award-winning show Yellowstone, and that's just scratching the surface. Legendary actor Kevin Costner is here, and he's teaming up with Fox Nation to bring you Yellowstone to Yosemite with Kevin Costner. Here's a look.
It's a free-for-all, and everything you see is up for grabs. So Roosevelt and Muir, they sit by the fire and they hatch a plan to change it. You know, no one knows for sure, but I think there's a really good chance that Muir told Roosevelt about Chief Tenaya's struggle and his nation's long history of living in the Yosemite Valley. That's what made Muir special. Some might call it ingenious, others might even say it's cunning. But boy, does that plan work.
In this captivating tale of preserving the American frontier, Costner retraces the steps of mountaineer John Muir and President Teddy Roosevelt, who took a 3-day trip through Yosemite in 1903. The expedition led Roosevelt to sign legislation that began essentially the national park system, starting with Yosemite National Park. Before leaving office, Roosevelt went on to create 150 national forests, 5 national parks, and preserve 230 million acres of land. So joining me now is Academy Award-winning actor and filmmaker Kevin Costner. Kevin, really good to see you again, man. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Will.
Last time I saw you, you were premiering Horizon. Here we are together again. You've got another story on the frontier talking about Americana, this time nonfiction. Incredible story, John Muir and Teddy Roosevelt and Yosemite. Why this park and this moment and these men for you, Kevin?
Well, we did a one on Yellowstone itself, the national parks, and while we all enjoy them, very rarely do we actually understand how they came to be. And when you think about things in life, it's like, are we ever going to make a difference in our life? I mean, I ask myself that. Everybody does. I mean, there's 8 billion of us on this planet now. What do we do? But it is a story about how men and women can really make a difference through a force of will. And we saw that in Yellowstone, the documentary, Ferdinand Hayden, and how this guy just, against all odds said, wait a second, I'm here to destroy this land. I'm here to find a railroad. I'm here to find more gold. And he looked at this place and said, no, I can't do that. And he looked at the other men around him and said, we can't do that. And he went up against the roughest, toughest people in the century at that point, land barons, copper barons, gold, and railroad. And he said, I don't think we should do this. And somehow, beyond belief, beyond the odds, he was able to convince Congress. And the story goes obviously much deeper than that. I'm taking a simple look at it. But he did change things, and he thought he would do it as a young man. And you could say a young woman, whatever you want to say, but I think we still have to believe in that ourselves. And sometimes it takes stories like these that show us that we can make a difference. And billions of people have now enjoyed these national parks. And when you think about Yosemite, we sometimes get the idea that it's always there, it's always been there. But no, there's a story behind it, and it's incredible, and it's rough, and it does deal with 2 men who had an idea that they could make a difference, and they did. Natural beauty spoke out loud to them.
You know, I know we only know so much, Kevin, and you've got an entire series here now on Fox Nation about this, but we only know so much about what was discussed between Muir and Teddy Roosevelt. They spent 3 days camping together in Yosemite. Huge moment that did lead to the national park system. What do you think happened during those 3 days? How did they connect, and what happened in this incredible camping trip?
Well, he showed up under the guise of a campaign stop. He's running for office. And in Central California. And so the politicians were there waiting for him. But Muir and him shared a letter. John had a feeling about Teddy having such a strong feeling about the outdoors, about what it did for his own life. And he said, he wrote Teddy, and Teddy said, I will come and look at this. But then Teddy added, but I'd like it to just be you and me. And so when Teddy finally arrived, there was hundreds of people, politicians lined up to curry favor. And basically, Teddy Roosevelt did the unthinkable. He took Muir, and with one single park guy, who wasn't even called a park guy, they left. Can you imagine the President of the United States dropping out of view for 4 days, nobody following them? So Teddy had the thing where he said, don't follow me, just you and me, John. And they were in some tough situations, as taking horses through 14 feet drifts. And they talked, and they had this bond, and then they began to plan. And they knew that what they were trying to do was important. They didn't know how important, but they just felt it in their bones. And a simple man who chose to look at nature for what it was, a powerful man who had been in war, who was president, they came together, and these two men reinforced what the park system would be about. But the important thing for me was we deal with the story before John Muir shows up, which is the Native Americans had this whole country, and they had Yosemite, and what happened to them was a travesty. And that's not very often talked about, but we deal with it in the documentary, not to pound people in the head, but just to educate. But again, America found a way where land would have a use other than just exploiting it, that the natural beauty could perhaps be turned into a level of commerce where people would come and what they saw as a child, their own children would see.
Hey, Kevin, during COVID, I took a trip with my family, and we hit the national parks. We hit Zion and Bryce and Grand Canyon and Yellowstone. It's one of the greatest experiences of our lives to go to all these parks. I didn't go to Yosemite. I'm curious, what are you going to do next? If we do this again at Fox Nation, which park are you going to next?
I don't know. I'm a little bit of a passenger on this. I decide what I do in my life. I only have so much time. I felt Yellowstone was right. I felt that doing Yosemite was worth my time. I mean, we can replicate this, but I prefer to be moved by the story. Some things, they're all dramatic in their own way, but if I choose to put my name on something, I want it to somehow make a jump for those who would watch it, that they kind of go, aha, I didn't know that, or I'm glad I now know that.
When you and I were together last time, we talked about how many movies you've done and how you gravitate to projects that have such Americana. You joked with me, next time I'm going to make a movie about apple pie. Again, this weekend at the Super Bowl, you said something about politics and audiences and movies, and they don't need to be together. But the thing about art is it has values. It has a message, right? Otherwise, it's wallpaper. Art has messages, and you have done that really well. So what values in the movies attract you? When you see a script and you see a movie and you see values in the art, what values attract you?
Well, I think, the notion of heroism when no one's looking is something so important. The notion of heroism when everything is on the line and you're not going to come out on top as a result of that, but you're trying to stand for something. I think when you're a child or a young man or a young woman and you see that, you realize, the heroism of a woman who works 3 jobs. You see her at 4 in the morning, every morning at a bus stop. And by the end of the evening, when she gets home so tired and makes a meal for her kids, she's gone to 3 different places to work. In movies, we can sometimes depict that and we lay music to it. And suddenly we know who's important. Suddenly we know who is powerful, who's a hero in her own family, that she would work that way to make life better for her children. So for as phony as movies are in certain instances, the truth is when we watch them in the dark and we see notions of people just standing up for something when it's not convenient, but they know it to be true or believe it to be true, that says something. And when I watch it, I think to myself, well, that's who I want to be. I'd like to be that. I think we can find those things in movies.
Kevin, you're a California guy. You're born and raised. I want to check in with you. How's the community after the fires there affected not just the Palisades, but out there in the valley?
You know, we've experienced them up here in Santa Barbara, floods, the thing, and basically I took in 4 families. I have a couple homes, and so you know, I told my kids there's going to be some families, and one family had some extended family, and they brought their dogs and they brought their stuff. They didn't have clothes in certain instances, and they weren't sure they were ever going to see their homes again. So you know, 4 families came and stayed here. I have a pool. It's not a very big pool, but it was filled with children that that were meeting and not aware of how much their parents' hearts were on the ground. So I had a couple in the house next door, another couple, 2 couples here with their children, a couple over here in this house, and then I have a little trailer that nobody was in it and somebody needed it. So not a very big contribution, but a place to land for people I knew and cared about.
I think that's an incredible thing. I think every little bit matters. I'll end with this, Kevin. I was reading I'm familiar with John Muir. I'm not as familiar with Yosemite, hadn't been there. I was reading in and getting ready for our conversation. And I guess one of Muir's biographers said this about Muir. They said that he believed that he needed to save the American soul from total surrender to materialism. Talking about this connection to land, saving our soul from materialism. There's something about that that really resonated with me. I don't know if that resonated with you about Muir and Yosemite.
Yeah, you know, we have these assets, we have these natural resources, and certain instances they have so much improved our way of life, and for ourselves, a lot of people. If anybody's wondering what I'm doing, I've enjoyed this interview, so I want to make sure I'm hearing your questions properly. But there's also a moment where we have to say enough, and we have to move on and preserve certain things. So what's that balance? Who gets to make that decision? And it's really kind of an emotional thing to look at something and say, can we do without this? Can we do with less? Because these are, you know, this ocean, we just can't keep taking, right? We cannot keep doing that, but we have to take from it. So it's like, we're so smart. We do need to be able to use this intelligence we have to make it work. And the desire to make it work is for everyone, not just a few.
Can I just say this, Kevin, really quickly? My currency is authenticity. I don't care that you're holding that speaker up and talking into that speaker and listening to me through that. I just want to have a good conversation with Kevin Costner. If the audience sees him holding that speaker, all the better. It's real. Kevin, I always enjoy talking to you, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Will.